Today's number is 1 million. That's how many cards we've done since January. And one day, that's what I want to do every single month. Now, today I want to talk about the lessons I've learned over the last 6 months doing bulk, how I source, how I plan to scale, and what I believe you can do to build your bulk business so that you can take on more. But before I get to that, my name is Ryan, and I started a TCG business with over $1 million in debt. I'm here to turn cardboard into cash and move from dire straits into distro. Every day I go over the ups and downs of running a TCG business and what I accomplished on the previous day. So let's talk about lessons learned from the front lines here. Okay, what I got wrong early was that I didn't know anything, okay? But I was willing to spend a boatload of money to make this operation work. That has prepped the battlefield, so to speak. And because of that, I've had, I would say, more success than I would have imagined because I've built kind of the foundations of that success. But I wouldn't recommend that to everybody. In fact, I wouldn't recommend that to anybody. Yes, I went out and spent a bunch of money for an inventory management system, right? And I don't even mean the online versions, like your card upload or your Sword Swift or any of that. I mean the physical management of the inventory. I have these great IKEA shelves. I saw them from Mason and Cardinal Gaming. I think I've talked about these before. I was like, well, I got to have that. How did and why did this happen? Partially because I am married and my wife was going to kill me if it looked hideous in here. I know she still probably doesn't love it in here, but she wanted the kind of kicks level of approval, kid tested, mother approved. And something that when she walked in, she could stomach, right? She wasn't like, oh my God, we live in a card shop now. It's a little messy at times. Don't get me wrong. That's how it works in the bulk game, right? When you're dealing with millions of cards, you're going to have some mess. And at this point, she's largely gotten over that part. But because of that, there was a lot of upfront OpEx, right? And I wouldn't recommend it, but it has turned out to my benefit. Okay. The reason I wouldn't recommend it to start is that you don't know if you're going to go in all the way, if you're going to keep going. What I have found in my life is you got to kind of toss the hat over the wall and go and get the hat. If I build towards things in a way that's a little slower, I tend to lose momentum. But if I force the action of go get the hat because you've already tossed it over the wall, I tend to make up for it. And so I have made myself whole in the last 6 months. And these are just things that you have to know about yourself, what you're capable of, what you're not capable of, what your kind of risk tolerances are. For me, I have a heavier risk tolerance. I have $1 million in debt. When you have $1 million in debt, you have a heavier risk tolerance by your own nature, but you're also willing to take it on and not let it kind of curve your mentality, make it so that you can't function. I've called it this wall of fire, that no matter where I am in life, there's this wall of fire. And the distance between me and it, because it's always moving with me, is that how much space, how much financial gain, how much, whatever, how much hard work can I put into this world so that that wall of fire slows down its speed as I pick up my own. But when I slow down, it starts to come back towards me. And that wall of fire motivates me because I don't ever want to get burned. And that's been true pretty much for the last 20 years, ever since I went to college. You take out a bunch of loans. This is just the byproduct of the system that we live in. And that wall of fire is always inching its way towards me. Now, like I said, I have this higher risk tolerance. I wouldn't recommend doing what I've done here. I do love my space, and I do recommend this kind of build if you're going to be in this for a long time. I know a lot of people are using these drawers. I know Steven from Card Uploader uses them. Hound Dog Gaming has a setup very similar to this. I know he's a big fan of them. I know Mason from Cardinal Gaming. This is just one of the things. Again, knowing the kind of physical space that you're going to be working in. How do you make that operate for you? How does that make your brain happy? You got to know where these cards are going because it becomes a lot. I know that Bronze God has these shelves that he uses, and I went actually to try and go get those shelves, and I was going to go replicate almost his exact same system in that closet there. And it turned out it couldn't work by an eighth or a quarter of an inch. That small difference literally meant I couldn't have the exact same setup. You got to know these things so that you don't spend $200, whatever that was. I don't want to say it was close to that, for physical inventory management, and then you literally cannot use it in your space. So understand the ins and outs of your physical space and what you can do with it. Now, what I did, I spoke with somebody, we call him Grandpa. He's our adopted grandfather for the kids. He's a wonderful man. We see him almost every day, and he knows a lot about a lot. And I just went to him. I was like, hey, this is the space I'm in. I'm a quarter of an inch off. What would you recommend? Because these are going to be heavy boxes. We came up with a system system, a wall mounted system. He understood the parameters, especially around the weight. And now in that same closet, instead of the system that I would have mimicked from Bronze God, I can run 50 total boxes in that closet, which is a huge amount of inventory. It's 50 times 5 rows, right? So it's a lot of inventory just in that closet. And that's important because I want to have a very large store. So again, lessons learned from the front lines here. Know the physical space you're working in, how to best operate in it, but build towards it. Don't get out ahead of yourself like I did. Now, if you're a little bit more, let's say, risky, you can do certain things, but understand you are putting yourself from a cash position at risk. I was a little more fortunate because I had built the inventory you see often behind me, right? And I knew that if I needed to at any point, I could sell that sealed and make my cash back so that I wouldn't actually have to pay for my kind of mistake in that right way. Well, in this particular case, that was another mistake of mine. When I started in January, I really thought people are going to want cash, right? Like they got to want cash because here we are. We run this, what I consider an amazing Discord that helps people hit an MSRP all day long. Every drop pretty much at this point in the DMV or close to it. We know, especially in the Northern Virginia, Maryland, DC area, right? Like in those areas specifically, we're getting more in Central America, in Central Virginia. We're getting more in the Tidewater area. We're seeing more and more growth, and I love to see it. But because of that, I just had this natural inclination to just think that people would want the cardboard that is in the wild, that they would want it at MSRP, and that just wasn't the case. That first month we got, I don't know, 15,000 cards. It was a lot, but like by today's standard, that's like an afternoon. That's like an hour's worth of work at this point. What I noticed was, yes, there were takers and my rates were good, especially when you consider kind of the store rates in the area. And because I was positioning myself as the cash alternative, my rates were a little lower than the stores themselves. But typically what the stores do is they'll give you what is effectively a similar rate, but when you get to their sealed product, it's 20 or 30% marked up. And so I thought that cash difference, that, hey, you don't have to worry about that. I'm going to help you hit that MSRP and then you can just use the cash. I really thought that would be the biggest draw. It did draw in some, but not as many as I really would have considered. Now, to be fair, I've only ever advertised on the Discord. I have never once advertised on Facebook. And that's a market space that most of you who are watching are better at. You know how to do that. Could I do that? Do I know how to do it? Yes. Have I done it? No. Why? Because frankly, I've taken in so much bulk just from the server that frankly, I didn't need to, but that's where this is going to change. In the coming weeks and months, I'm going to be doing way more in terms of how I apply pressure into different market spaces so that I can get more of that bulk so I can get to the 1 million cards a month. Now, for those of you who already do it on Facebook, you probably know both how, kind of easy it is to post, but kind of hard it is to deal with it. My bulk partner, she started out on Facebook and she specializes in vintage. And I think maybe both of those things combined was a little bit more frustrating, but I could tell that it was frustrating, right? Because you're dealing with maybes and would you and could you. And I did maybe 1 or 2 interactions on Facebook where I didn't seek it out in the sense of I didn't advertise for it, but I saw a lot while I was on Facebook. I went after it. It was a good lot. We even came to terms for what it's worth. We just never could meet. Now they were an hour away, and so it wasn't that convenient, but it would have been a really nice kind of like, oh, okay, this is maybe a different way I can approach this where I don't have to advertise, but I kind of can just see what lots are out there. But my experience so far has not been great. But for all of you, what I would recommend is continue to post often. Make sure that you refresh your either rate card or your posting so that others know exactly that in your area that you're doing this as much as possible. If you are capable of it, kind of widen the range so that you're willing to either travel more or have it shipped to you. I know people are probably willing to have it shipped to them, but you need to determine whether that's going to be at your cost or the seller's cost. And so I've seen some people who split that cost, kind of like you pay for it now and I'll pay half when I get the actual cards. I don't actually know which model I'm going to end up with. I know which model I've seen. I kind of intuitively like for the seller. But you also have to price in, how do I pay for the shipping, which can be between, I don't know, $5 and $60 if it's, depending on how big it is. And if it's multiple boxes, it could be a lot of, a large flat rate priority box goes for like $29, right? So you have to then build that into your rate card and it gets a little messy. So you really need to understand, you need to understand where your buy is and where your kind of financials behind that are. So going back kind of to the beginning, I started on the server, I put out, hey, I'm going to be doing this. And I got a trickle in January. Then in February, I said I got wind that somebody that was going to be doing a local card show, the Oda Rush team. Big fans of them. I've been very friendly with them. I think the world of them. They said, well, we would like you to run the kids corner, and as a part of the kids corner, you can do your bulk operation. It'll be fun because nobody else is doing it at the show. You can provide kind of a new kind of flavor of vendor. I call it reverse vending. And in theory, you could bring this to the show so that, or this was my theory at least, somebody would then have cash to use at the show for the other vendors, right? The sealed product or a single or a slab that was there. And so it wasn't really a competition to the other vendors. And in fact, some of my best, buys that day were from vendors. We did about 28,000 cards that day. Now, mind you, previous month we'd only done 15 or so. So 28,000 in a single day was huge. The rest of the month, what I learned was I needed to switch it up from just a cash operation to a trade. So in March, I want to say we ended at around 40,000 cards in February. So mind you, we've done 1 million in 6 months, but only in the first 2 months, I want to say close to 75. March was when things kicked up. I said, okay, I've got to create a trade rate, not just a buy rate, but a cash rate, but a trade rate. And I went around to the local to me TCG stores. Remind you, I have not advertised anywhere else but my server at this time. And I realized I'm saying this a lot, and not all of you, in fact, I imagine almost none of you are going to have a Discord server that you help run or that you're a part of, where you feel like you can access this kind of bulk. Now, if you're part of a local server, I would test that theory. If you're part of a local server, you should try to test that theory. Be the bulk person for your local area. And on the server. And if you're not on a server, I bet you where you are, there is a Pokemon or a TCG server that you can be a part of. They usually start as a Facebook group. And if there isn't one, if you're in an area where you cannot find a Discord server, you must start one for yourself, if anything. It's a great opportunity for you because this is people who are like-minded, who understand, who have a bunch of bulk because they're typically rippers, whatever, or collectors. It doesn't really matter. They have what you want. Now, like I said, in March, I started this journey with trade-in, and I was comfortable with my rates, but I found that the minute I published my rates, I was sort of, even though I run the server, there was sort of this kind of competition now. Other people were starting to get into the bulk game. It's partly how I met my kind of bulk partner, right? But even on the server, they would post like, hey, I'm doing XYZ. It was like, well, I just put out this rate card. I literally run the server, and it felt like this open competition. And I remember one of the members was getting a little angry for me. And I said, don't worry about it. It's a free market. This is just how things are. If I don't have the best rate on a certain thing, other people will flow to it. Water goes to its lowest point. I always say that. It's a good friendly competition. I've got to push myself further. And so I continued to kind of fine tune my rate card. Eventually, I got to a place of, I'm going to make it so that almost nobody on the server can compete. Not that they can't, I'm not stopping anybody, but that they almost would have no reason to, because it would be hard to replicate. And so in doing that, I found that I had what I consider the best trade rates in my area. And partially that consideration is this, and this is a key nugget I want you to take away. I think everybody should be working with trade. I think you should go to your local Target or your local Walmart and not become a scalper, but have I'm going to have this product. This is not something you can get at a local Target, but I have this. And if somebody wants to give me enough bulk to get it, they will get it. Now, I'm happy to take a DR booster box and for months and hold it. I'm also happy to trade that in for bulk. Why? Because I know how to deal with the bulk, and I know how to make that money work for me in a different way. It's one of the things that I don't think a lot of people understand about bulk. It takes a lot of work. I think in the last episode, I talked about how it's about $12 an hour in terms of rate, if you really look at it on an hourly rate just against profit rather than against inventory. That's not a lot. For a lot of people, that's the ends. Just don't justify the means. And that's why they take the fast nickel versus the slow dime that I always talk about. And it really is between, on average, you can almost double your money in bulk if you're willing to find the ways to do it. If you're not, that's okay. But understand that those of us who are, we're going to get ahead in this way. There are many other ways in the TCG space, in just business of TCGs, that you can get ahead. My buddy DJ from DJ's Poke Center runs an amazing shop. I love what he's built over there. He's doing it completely sealed, and you could see the transformation of his business in this time frame of, I don't know, 9 or 8 months. And he's talked recently about kind of the summer slowdown. And I kind of want to get into that in a little bit too. Now, what I love about the bulk business is the margins are great, but also nobody wants it. It's less competition, frankly. There's a lot of sealed dealers. There's not a lot of really trusted, good bulk dealers or people that you're willing to bring your bulk to. One of the reasons that I love that is because I think of this kind of like garbage man. That's not a thing that everybody wants to do. No, my kid actually probably when he was growing up wanted to be a garbage man for at least a month. But it's not the job most people find intuitively attractive, but they make money. The businesses make money. The trash has got to go, right? And so every card has value according to TCG Bulk Kings, right? And what you have to do is find how to source that value, how to move that value. And when somebody rips open a pack, I look at it like I have almost 10 chances, right? Now it's not on average, but I have almost 10 chances to get 100% of the cards in that pack. And most packs are going to have at least 7 to 8, maybe even 9 on probably average cards that nobody else wants, and I'm happy to take. That means every pack that you open, let's just call it 8 cards, on average is 80% for somebody like me. That's a lot, right? And if you're a ripper or a collector and you're done master setting or you're trying to master set, these two things link up, right? If you're trying to master set, you want somebody like me who's collecting hundreds of thousands of cards to put them up on the storefront so that you can go ahead and find that card to complete your master set or master sets in a way that makes the most financial sense. On the other hand, if you're somebody who just likes ripping, whether it's for collecting or not, it doesn't particularly matter, and you don't need these you want recapitalization. You want to get something for the things that were 7 or 8 out of the cards in your pack, and why wouldn't you? So what I found to make the difference in this space was not just that my buy rates had to be at a rate that was competitive locally specifically, but that my trade-in option, there had to be a niche there. There had to be something that was different. And I'm going to tell you, if you're doing trade-in for your bulk, the best thing I've done is say to a buyer, in this case, a seller really, give me your bulk, whatever that is, 100,000, 200,000, 10,000, 200, it does not matter. Give me the bulk that you have. And as long as you get to 95% of the value of the box, let's just say Destined Rivals, right? If it's 95%, I will give you the 5% difference. So rough math. If an ETB costs $100 and you have $95 worth of trade credit, I'm going to give you the 5% off. You're going to get it at $95 because I want to incentivize you to push as much of this into bulk rather than cash. I was talking with my son's coach, came over with his son and his family the other day. We had a 4th of July festivities at our neighborhood. It was wonderful. Our first time as a family kind of hanging out outside of the coaching that he had done. And he had a really positive impact on my son. And we got, I don't know, 3/4 of the night in, and we started talking about the Knicks and Wemby, and that got us talking about sports, and that got us talking about cards. And it turns out he's a big sports card collector, or a big ripper. In fact, he's worked with somebody in the local area I would love to talk to, and done some rip and ship here, sold some things and whatnot. Like, he's got a taste for it. And we got to talking, and now he's a member of the Discord. And when we were talking, he was like, why this? Why bulk? And I said, I would prefer bulk. I would rather have bulk than cash. In fact, that reason for that 95% is that I want to not just encourage the bulk, I prefer it because I know how to rinse it. I know how to make it clean money again. I know how to make it profitable. If I take $100 worth of, if you bought an ETB that's worth $100 for $100, and let's just say, for instance, I bought it for retail, right, $65, I've made a gain, $35, and that could have been over time, right? Journey Together is a great example. I bought Journey Together last year when it was, on the shelves, nobody wanted it. It was like $55. Came to about $100, I don't know, like 2 months ago, and all of a sudden I made profit. Now I would have made a $45 profit. That's almost a 2x in under a year. That's a lot of gains. But the way I would do it, and the way I did do it, was I had somebody that wanted to get the JT ETB for bulk. Well, that bulk translated to way more money for me in the long run. Now that's, again, because I made the connections, I put in the time, I put in the effort. That's a lot of time and effort that most people don't want to do for what they think of as relatively small amounts of gains. It is positive gains if you're willing to put in the effort. So if you are one of these people, if you're running a TCG business and you're not putting in that level of effort to then put in the trades, you're doing it wrong, frankly. People love cash. I get that. But the people that you're often dealing with, they want the product. And I love being able to give people, I've got things up there that I know one day are going to hurt to trade, right? I've got 151 booster bundle displays. But if somebody brings me enough bulk to get one of those, whether they want to rip it or not, I will be happy to give it to them. Frankly, it will hurt me if they want to rip it, but you know what? It's theirs. Now, that would also mean that they've got a metric ton of bulk, like just a pallet worth of bulk, which means I will have done my job as a bulk dealer for sealed, and we both ended up where we wanted to be. I will tell you, if you're not sourcing some inventory so that you can use for trade and then finding that kind of niche framework, mine was 5% under, right? So 5% off if you get to 95% worth of credit value. That has made a huge difference. Why would you go to one of my competitors, or why would you go to a store that's charging 20-30% over market if you can come to me, get either identical or better rates in some cases, and just get the box for 5% cheaper? So you have to build in kind of that niche, and you also have to build in that credibility, but you really need to build in those margins. To scale to 1 million cards a month, my next step is really kind of, I took that, and I want to say in March we did 300,000, and then in April we did in March we did about 200,000. In April we did about 300,000. In May we did about 350. And this it was a drop off. It was 250, and then in June we just did 400,000. So we've crossed the million card threshold. That's very exciting. But I know that there's somebody literally local to me. I might meet them out in this space that does 1 million cards a month. So what can you do to make more moves to get more bulk into your business? I think you can advertise everywhere. I think you should do more trade. I think you should find a niche. I think if you're not part of a Discord, you should join one. If there are no local Discords to you, you should make one. And you should be a leader in this area for your local area at the very least. Now, I say that knowing that means there might be a little less cards out there for me. That's okay. Because what I want to encourage is not all of you are doing this business, and not all of you, to be very fair, will sustain this business. Not all of you feel that wall of fire analogy the way I just described. At some point, you may go, I wanted to do this. I got other things. I've got other life needs. My wife or my partner or my husband or my friends or my kids or my work. It doesn't matter. This thing that I thought I would do for a while just doesn't interest me anymore. It doesn't make my brain happy. That's okay. You'll find a person like me or somebody else in your local area, and you'll move things too. If you're a collector or a ripper and you're watching this, if you're a rip and ship and you're watching this, reach out to me. I have 1 million card goal a month. I would love to be partnered with people who want to help me grow to that goal. I will also tell you the last two things that I'm going to be doing. Starting next month, I'm going to be working with 3 different kind of motives. One, I'm going to partner with a few people that I think can help with outreach into different areas of mostly Facebook, so that it's not just always me having to do the sourcing, and I will pay them for that effort, right? So I've already worked it out with one individual who would like to try this out, where they get kind of that trade in kind benefit of they source locally on their own behalf, they move it to me, and then I give them a plus up in the trade. The second thing is I'm actively working to close in on kind of partnering with TCG businesses in my area. So local LCSs who may or may not have trade programs for bulk, to help them kind of either start or kind of work within their own trade, kind of whatever it is that they do with trade for bulk, and then be their bulk buyer. I want to be their bulk buyer so that, if I can go 7 or 10 stores and each one has 50,000 a month, that's huge numbers, right? But I didn't have to do the sourcing. They took care of that. And then I just either pay them in cash or trade or whatever it may be. The last thing that I'm going to be doing, and it's going to be kind of an interesting one, starting in July, I'm going to be running a donation program. Now, this is going to be hard because I'm not a 501c3. You're not going to, you could donate to me, but it's not like you're getting a write-off for it. And I say this to say that when I was a kid, my father was donating clothes and stuff, Good Samaritans or whoever it was. And I asked him, because they asked, do you want a write-off? You want the little slip for write-off? And he said no. And I said, why? Like, I don't know what even a write-off is. He explained it to me, but the fact that he declined it was interesting to me. And when we were walking back into the house, I'll never forget it. We were coming through the garage and we were walking back into the house, and he's like, because I didn't do this for a write-off. I did this to donate because I wanted to help somebody. So because I'm not a 501c3, I can't give somebody a write off, right? But I'm hopeful that what I'm going to be kind of engineering as a program to help people will be encouraging for people to donate. And whether that's they donate as a part of what they're already kind of delivering to me, whether that's locally or online, and or whether they just say, hey, here's 500 cards, or you can take 50 cards from the submission that I have and donate them. But every 500 cards that are donated, I'm going to buy a pack of whatever. I'm going to be buying a pack of sealed Pokemon cards for the local hospital, Children's National. It's one of the biggest hospitals in the nation. My daughter went there when she was suffering from febrile seizures. It's a wonderful facility. I credit that staff and that facility for helping bring peace to my family in a very hard time. She's okay, by the way. But my family kind of grew up in the hospital system. My mother was a nurse. My mother worked at the Children's Hospital, and it breaks my heart that when I originally started Bulk, I want to say about 9 months ago, I had every intention of making Bulk operations a kind of a donation pile. And what I found is they will not take it. It's an infectious disease issue. So now I want to encourage it so that people who did want to help, and there were many people who wanted to help with that process of delivering Bulk. Instead, every 500 common cards, common and uncommons, nothing fancy, nothing hollow, right? Just anything like that. Every 500 cards that somebody donates, I'm going to buy a pack, and I want to see how many packs we can donate to the Children's Hospital every single month. It might be 2, it might be 20. I might try and partner with other businesses to do matching programs. We'll see what we can do, but I would love to do this because it's just something near and dear to my heart. We've called it Cards for a Cause. We've called it that since, I want to say, last July when we started this process. Now, if you would like to participate in that, if you would like to donate cards, please DM me, write in the comments below. We'll reach out. You can join the Discord and be a part of that. Yeah, I would be happy to. If you're an LCS that wants to partner in that capacity, I would love to work with you. If you're somebody that just wants to reach out and sell Bulk, but also kind of in the rounded up kind of mentality of, hey, I'm going to send you 7,000 cards, but you can take the other 500 or 200 or whatever. But every 500 cards, common and uncommons donated, I'm going to buy a pack for a kid. Now, the reason I'm doing that is because I know that there's enough on the bone to go and do that without, hurting margins or affecting everything else as a part of the business. And we can do some good out there. And I really want to do some good out there. Part of the reason that I think it's an interesting part of the operation is it encourages the behavior of sending in more Bulk, whether you want cash trade or donation. It becomes a kind of available channel for people to say, this is where I bring my Bulk. And so that's kind of the things that if you're running a TCG business, you have to think of. So what can you do? Comment below about what you're doing and what can you do to scale into more Bulk each month so that you can support your business. Yesterday, we picked up a ton of Bulk. I want to say it was about 50,000 cards. We grabbed a lot from a friend, got everything priced out and ready to move, and started breaking down kind of the new Playables mousepad for my Masons. The first one got rejected on IP. I have no idea why. We're going to make a new one. We're going to make sure it gets past the IP filters for it was Printify, I think, that we were working with, and we will make sure that it works out well. Today, we moved my friend's products. So we worked until about 1 o'clock pricing that lot out. I told you yesterday that I was going to be working with another friend to get that moving. And already we've cashed him out on a third of that lot. 24 hours in, he's got $1,000 cash in hand. That's huge, right? So he needed cash. And so inside of 24 hours, actually less, he was paid $1,000 right away. I'll get him the other 2,200 or whatever's left within the course of the next week, just like we agreed upon. I said earlier, my family spent a wonderful day with friends now for a 4th of July event. I said the father is now part of the Discord, and he's been enjoying himself, sort of drinking from the fire hose. We went through 5 different lots today. We paid over $1,000 in cash and trade. I calculated it out because of the $1 million threshold and what I know my averages are. That means in the last 6 months, we've given cash value or trade value of about $40,000 in cash and product. That's huge value for people out there because they never, ever, ever paid market in that instance, ever. Because they were always reducing either the cost with Bulk or they were getting a 5% discount. That's huge for people. It's one of the things I am proud of as a part of this business and what I am proud of about the way we're handling our business. Now we're going to continue to push in July. The person that I called my Mason, the first Mason, she's back. She's already like, hey, boss, I need to get back to work. Where's the bulk? So I'm going to be bringing her 1 or 2 lots. I'm going to be picking up some cards from her. I'm very excited to have her back. It's nice to have her back in the saddle. All of it kind of is built to bring more value, right? That's the focus that you need to have as a TCG business. What value, what difference do you bring? What's the thing that makes it you versus the next store? What's the reason that they would go to you versus the other, 15 people advertising on Facebook? What's the difference in your business, your ethics, your morality, your whatever, your advertising? It could be anything. Why you should be something that you ask of yourself when you're thinking of why a buyer or a seller, why somebody would deal with you. Now, for me, I like to think that I'm a nice enough guy, but I also say water goes to its lowest point. If I don't have the best rates, they're going to go somewhere else. If I don't provide value in terms of trade, if I don't provide value in terms of trust, people drop off their bulk with me. They don't know when they're going to get the counts. I try and do it within 48 hours. If things get racked and stacked a little too backed up, I let them know along the way. There is a trust factor there. Now, some of that helps that I'm working on the servers and they can find me, and I don't want to lose my good name, so to speak. But we are going to be pushing one big change, and we'll be interested to see how this filters into the Discord community. But starting next month, we're upping our trade rates. We're working out the final details of that, but we are upping our trade rates. We are also going to give a benefit to those who sort versus unsort. Now, we will take unsorted, but we will give a benefit to those who bring sorted lots, because it just is so much easier from a kind of human capital standpoint. Now, I want you to think about all of these things. Comment below what you've learned today. If I can be of any help, please reach out. As always, be good or be good at it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.